G'day everyone. Well, time to elaborate. Let you know where we are in the scheme and prophecy and revelations of all things. Let's do that.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is June 26, 2019, and I'm Adam Green with NoMoreNews.org. This is No More News Live. This is my maiden stream, my maiden voyage using Restream to stream to YouTube and to D-Live for the first time. So I'm just checking. I'm Adam Green with No More News, and we are up on D-Live and up on YouTube, looking green, looking good. Everything good in the chats? I'm going to be a little bit more cash than usual in this one.
Well,
make sure
we don't
everything's
want that, do
going
we?
well. And then after I get some housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to
I want to get up to where he talks about the Noahide
take
laws.
just a section, put that up as a standalone video. So all this month, it's really been intensifying over control of the most disputed, controversial, holy site in the world. I've done
I'll explain all
several
this.
videos on this in the Jewish Temple Prophecy playlist. The Jerusalem Conspiracy. Is Jared Kushner the Jewish Messiah? The plan to destroy the Temple Mount. Mike Pompeo is an apocalyptic Christian Zionist. The embassy move. And several others as well. Link will be in the description for that. And just one other announcement is that the shirts the sale is ending at the end of June, and they're going to be shipping out in mid-July, so only a few days left to get your No More News mainstream media trash shirt. Throwing out the mainstream media. Oops, there we go. Throwing out the mainstream media in the trash. Am I demonetized on YouTube? I have cause. And then also they were just censored on Vimeo, I believe, as well.
Let's get to the Noahide laws.
So they're number one. Sorry. Halloween. End times prophecy that was once considered fringe among practitioners of Judaism. Miko. It's not just some fringe, crazy conspiracy.
What isn't?
They're trying to take it over very clearly. And we've got this one too. Oh, wait. PA advisor on Islam warns world, quote, will pay unless Muslims save Al-Aqsa. So they're saying this is going to be end times. It's going to cause massive war if they destroy it. Oh, just imagine the clash of civilizations. So all the warnings are out there. This is everywhere in the news right now. And it says, okay, moving on. So this is how it's grown and expanding and going mainstream. It's not just some fringe, crazy conspiracy, radical thing. This is completely mainstream. Once a small group of extremists has gone increasingly mainstream. Let's open that one up. See what we see. Haritz, the Temple Mount has gone mainstream. This is October 31st, 2014, Halloween. End times prophecy that was once considered fringe among practitioners of Judaism. Miko Peled, quote, says, quote, became notable after the 1967 war and has since grown into, quote, a massive colonial project that uses religious biblical mythology and symbols to justify its actions. While the push to destroy Al-Aqsa and replace it with a physical third temple has gained traction in Israel in recent years, this effort has advanced at a remarkably fast pace in just the past few weeks, owing to a confluence of factors. So this is the recent updates. We've got U.S. press occasionally mentions the role of religious extremists in dictating the foreign policy of prominent U.S. politicians like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. She links an article, Pompeo's Christian Zionist Policy on New York Times. I'm over my New York Times limit for the month.
I suggest you go to know more news to watch the rest of that.
These Zionists are completely influencing policy, just like they have been such prophecies. So that's the big change. Instead of waiting for the Messiah to come and allowing stuff to happen, they're just doing everything they can to have self-fulfilling prophecies, to make them happen on their own. And Kalischer described this as, quote, self-help. Kalischer, settling European Jews in Palestine was but the first step to be followed by other steps that would form an active as opposed to a passive approach towards Jewish messianism. And then this guy, Kalischer, Rabbi Kalischer, says that they got to rebuild the temple that the Romans destroyed, and he talked all the time about the ritual animal sacrifices in the temple, which Kalischer believed could only be placed on the Temple Mount where Al-Aqsa then sat and still sits. And Kalischer wasn't the only rabbi saying this. Also, Rabbi Judah Alkali said, it is obvious that Moshiach ben David, the house of David, will not appear out of thin air in a fiery chariot with fiery horses, but will come if the children of Israel bend to the task of preparing themselves for him. And now the new beliefs with Maimonides and the Rebbe and Chabad is that they got to get the whole world to follow the Noahide laws, which, as I showed in my video the other day on BitChute, the BitChute exclusive up here, Kabbalah Supremacy, Noahide Laws, and Chabad Exposed. I get into several books in that one. Important books that show their whole Zionist endgame, including 1934 Michael Higgins' The Jewish Utopia, Shahak, Jewish History and Jewish Religion, and Kabbalah and Meditation for the Nation. So quoting extensively from those about the Noahide laws and the Moshiach and their end times agenda. For more info there, I'll put the link in the description. BitChute exclusive, third top trending on BitChute. So, moving on. Secular Jews. So, secular Jews were hugely influential in the Zionist movement after its official formation. Yeah, it was like Bolshevik Ben Gurion, who I just learned a new quote recently from Ben Gurion. I read it in Bjerknes's book, and he said that the First World War gave them the Balfour Declaration, and then the Second World War should give them Israel, or something along those lines.
The Second World War was Israel.
But I thought that was pretty telling. And it says, so the secular Jews were influential, but then prominent religious Zionists did influence the Zionist movement in key ways prior to Israel's founding. One such figure was Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook. Is that where the name comes from, Kook? Kook, I heard that this guy's got some real bad quotes. Send me an email if you've seen any of the bad quotes from Abraham Isaac Kook through nomorenews.org, the contact page, who sought to reconcile Zionism and Orthodox Judaism as the Ashkenazi chief rabbi of Palestine, a position he assumed in 1924. And it's interesting, Rabbi David Weiss, who is the anti-Zionist rabbi, that's a good old photo from 1967. 1967 wore the famous Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. Rabbi Weiss thinks that it's not going to happen. He thinks that it's just posturing so that they can kind of as a symbolic sovereignty over the greater Israel. I'm going to play you guys a great clip too in the end after I get through this article of a Christian arguing with a rabbi about the temple and animal sacrifices. It's a very shocking clip. Okay. Doing things, okay, so Rabbi Weiss also says that it's against Jewish law to even go up to ascend the Temple Mount because you can't have the pure ritual or something like that. And then they're saying Al-Aqsa is the third holiest site in Islam. Religious Zionism gains political force. The modern rise of the religious Zionist movements that promote the destruction of Al-Aqsa Mosque and its replacement with a third Jewish temple is often traced back to the Six-Day War of 1967 1967. It began with a group of small messianic fanatics who forced the government, who at that point after 1967 was still secular Zionists, to accept their existence in a highly populated areas within the West Bank. So they got these West Bank settlements of the extremist Talmudists. The government is worth noting. Okay, from a small group that were fringe lunatics to a Jewish city in the heart of Hebron region. So one of the oldest cities in the world, Hebron. I visited there in the West Bank. It's where the the cave of the patriarchs, where Abraham and his family are buried. It's where the Baruch massacre happened, where he shot all the people in the mosque, all the Muslims praying in the mosque. And that's also where they have the old Hebron markets, where they have to have the settlers live right above the market. I did the video with the interview with the shopkeeper at the market, showing the fence that they have, because people, Jewish settlers throw stuff, but their settlement is right on top of the market, and they throw all types of bleach and pee and feces and rocks down on the people. They had to put a fence up to protect it. So this is the type of settlements that they have. And now they're all talking about, Netanyahu and everybody wants to annex East Jerusalem. They want to annex the West Bank settlements. Is why they forced to do all the settlements, because they wanted to make a Palestinian state an impossibility. Anyway, quote, has been used successfully since then and is now used by groups promoting the temple, religious extremists. Okay, religious Israeli youth who opt out of military service and choose national service instead may work with the Third Temple Building Organization. So they're able to opt out of military service and join temple building organizations. Isn't that a shock? Dr. Ramzi Baroud, journalist, academic, and founder of the Palestine Chronicle, said that the Third Temple movement, or temple activist movement, has grown dramatically in recent years and has become increasingly mainstream in Israel. There has been a massive increase in the number of Israeli Jews who force their way into the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound to pray and practice various rituals. I've been seeing in the news more and more frequently of them charging in and taking over. In 2017 alone, over 25,000 Jews who visited the compound, accompanied by thousands of soldiers and police officers, and provoking many clashes that resulted in the death and wounding of many Palestinians. Since 2017, the increase in Jews visiting the compound has been very significant if compared to the previous year, when around 14,000 Jews made the same journey. Saying it's part of the Israeli mainstream to take over Al-Aqsa Mosque, demolish the mosque in order to rebuild the so-called temple. This is more and more in the mainstream, he says as well, are opposed to this concept. Oh, and Wise says he doesn't think it's going to happen because so many people are opposed to it. So, but everybody else disagrees.
I disagree.
Disagrees. There's a photo of one of the clashes. Tomorrow might be too late. So this neo-Zionism, like a Rabbi Kalischer, it says during the 1967 war, General Shlomo Goren, the chief rabbi of the IDF, had told the chief of Central Command, Uzi Narkis, that shortly after Israel's conquest of Jerusalem's Old City, the moment had come to blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. Quote, do this and you will go down in history, Goren told Narkis. And this was in a 1967 book, Tom Segav's book. Goren felt that the site's destruction could only be done under the cover of war, and that, quote, tomorrow might be too late. Goren was among the first Israelis to arrive at the then recently conquered recently conquered Old City in Jerusalem, and was joined at a newly liberated Al-Aqsa. Laura Loomer said she wanted to liberate Al-Aqsa, so I guess we know what that means. Compound by young Yisrael Ariel, who is now a major leader in the temple activist movement and head of the Temple Institute. He was there when they took the dome in 1967 also, which is dedicated to the construction of a third temple where Al-Aqsa Mosque currently stands. Narkis rejected Gorin's request, but did approve the razing, the destroying of Jerusalem's Moroccan quarter, which, according to Mondaweiss, says that they did it for the, quote, holy purpose of making the Western Wall more accessible to Jewish Israelis. 135 homes were flattened, along with several mosques, and over 700 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed as part of the operation. Following the occupation of East Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa has become under increasing threat, just as extremist movements who seek to destroy the site have grown. In 1969, a Christian extremist from Australia set fire to the mosque. Oh yeah, also it's interesting, in My Pet Goat, there's a scene of a Muslim dome with the crescent on like a Temple Mount structure, and a fighter jet flies over and blows it up. It also showed something like the spire of the Notre Dame Cathedral falling over. It shows something like the Twin Towers collapsing as well. A lot of crazy opinions on My Pet Goat too. I've covered it in past videos on the playlist. And there's been other attempts as well of extremists. The Young Turks covered ones of a Christian Zionist that wanted to do it more recently. In 1984, the group of Messianic extremists known as the Jewish Underground was arrested for plotting the use, as I showed a second ago. The planned destruction of the site would have been horrible, terrible, could have provoked, quote, the entire Muslim world into a war against the state of Israel and against the Western world. A war of religions. Well, could be what they want. In fact, it is what they want.
Well, now you know why there's millions of that religion being put all over the world, as they've destabilized their regions and caused them to become refugees.
And then they said group's mistake was not in targeting the historic mosque, which he called an abomination. So he said that they shouldn't just try to blow it up. They should have instead, they did it before Israeli society would accept such an act. He said the generation was not ready. The Jewish underground movement, quote, must build a new force that grows very slowly, moving its educational and social activity into a new leadership. They've been doing that heavily. That's been unfolding and escalating rapidly.
Okay, we don't need to know any more about them doing that, because that's the plan. I'll explain what it is.
Sports minister Regev, a member of the Netanyahu-led Likud party, called for more settler extremists to storm the compound, stating we should do everything to keep ascending to the Temple Mount, and hopefully soon we will pray in the Temple Mount, our sacred place. In 2013, then member of the Likud party Moshe Feiglin told the Knesset that following Jewish Israelis to enter the compound is, quote, not about prayer. Interesting. He told them. And the struggle is about sovereignty. That's the true story here. The story is about one thing only, sovereignty. And this is a strategy aimed at reducing Palestinian Jordanian control over the site. Feiglin, earlier this year in April, right before the election, called for the immediate construction of the Third Temple, telling a Tel Aviv conference, quote, I don't want to build a third temple in 1 or 2 years. I want to build it now. The Times of Israel, reporting on Feiglin's comments, noted that the Israeli politician is enjoying growing popularity with that claim that he wants to.
Okay. So, let me explain what this is. So we're not just sitting here staring at Mr. Green. Let me explain what the Dome of the Rock and the Third Temple are. Let me just go to Daniel so I can give you his exact words. There are 70 weeks that have been determined for your people and your holy city in order to terminate the transgression, to finish off sin, to make atonement for error, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and the prophecy and the and to anoint the Holy of Holies. You should know that, understanding that from the issuing of the word to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah, the leader, there will be 7 weeks, also 62 weeks. She will be restored and rebuilt with a public square and moat, but in times of distress. So it'll happen during times of distress. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah will be cut off with nothing for himself. And the people of the leader who is coming will destroy the city and the holy place, and its end will be by the flood. And until the end there will be war. What is decided upon is desolations. And he will keep the covenant in force for the many, for 1 week, and at the half of the week he will cause sacrifice and gift offerings to cease. And on the wing of disgusting things there will be one causing desolation, and until the extermination what was decided on will be poured out also on the one lying desolate. Okay. So, what is he speaking about? We need to go back for that, because he's speaking about the abomination of desolations and the permanent feature. Okay, where is it? We have not obeyed the voice of Jehovah our God by following his laws that he set before us through his servant the prophets. All Israel has overstepped your law and turned away by not obeying your voice, so that you poured out on us the curse and the sworn oath written about in the law of Moses, and the law of Moses, the servant of the true God. For we have sinned against him. He has carried out his words that he spoke against us and against our rulers who rule over us, by bringing great calamity on us. O Jerusalem, Israelites, the Jews. By bringing great calamity on us. Nothing has ever been done under the whole heavens such as what was done in Jerusalem. Just so, that's what they did to the Palestinians, you get it? Just as it is written in the law of Moses, all this calamity has come upon us, yet we have not begged for the favor of Jehovah our God by turning away from our error, and by showing insight into your truth. So Jehovah kept watching. Jehovah kept watchful and brought calamity on us. For Jehovah our God is righteous in all the works that he has done, yet we have not obeyed his voice. Now, O Jehovah our God, the one who brought your people out of the land of Egypt by a mighty hand, and made a name for yourself down to this day, we have sinned and acted wickedly. O Jehovah, according to all your righteous acts, please may your anger and wrath turn away from your city Jerusalem, your holy mountain, For because of our sins and the errors of our forefathers, Jerusalem and your people are an object of reproach in all those around to all those around us. And now listen, O our God, to the prayer of your servant and to his entreaties, and cause your face to shine upon your sanctuary that is desolate. For your own sake, O Jehovah, incline your ear, O my God, your heart do open, your eyes, and see our desolate condition, and the city that has been called by your name. For we are not entering you because of our righteous acts, but because of your great mercy. O Jehovah, do not hear. O Jehovah, do not forgive. O Jehovah, do not pay attention and act. Do not delay for your own sake. This is what they want. O my God, for your own name has been called upon your city and upon your people. While I was still speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of my people Israel, and making my request for favor before Jehovah my God concerning the holy mountain of my God. Yes, while I was yet speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had previously seen in the vision, came to me when I was extremely weary, at about the time of the evening gift offering, and he gave me understanding, saying, O Daniel, now I have come to